Hi, I'm Margaret.
And I'm Janie.
And this is Facts and Frivolities.
The last 3 times we've filmed, one has been a gab for Patreon, one has been a gab for everyone, and then one has been a book club. So we haven't actually filmed topics in a while.
Yeah. And also we took a break from recording because spring was crazy busy.
Yeah, we didn't record at all in April or May.
Yeah.
So it has been hectic, but we're getting back into it and
Yeah.
I'm excited.
And you guys shouldn't have had any break, which is nice.
Yeah, we actually kept up with it.
I'm really excited about my topic. I have a list of just ideas that at this moment, one comes up, I just write it down. I was looking at it and all of these I find interesting, but none of them were this is the rabbit hole I want to get down to right now. But then I saw this one because I heard a podcast where people were talking about, actually, this kind of ties with yours as well, because mine kind of turns into a topic on journalism.
Oh, and what spoilers, my topic is on journalism today.
And what happens when tearing down a woman is really good for advertising or for selling newspapers. So it's about the disappearance of Agatha Christie. I'm so excited. And then I subtitled it, or the ramifications of a mysterious affair, which, if you're an Agatha Christie fan, is a pun. Who was Agatha Christie? I'm sure you've heard her name before. She is the best-selling novelist of all time.
Which is crazy because she's a woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
That quote that's for all of history, Anonymous was a woman, that's accurate.
Right.
And yet somehow the best-selling novelist of all time is a woman.
Yeah.
And she wrote mysteries and thrillers.
If you're not familiar with Agatha Christie, you're probably familiar with at least her most famous detective, which is Hercule Poirot, who is a Belgian detective. He's very much the fastidious, well-buttoned up European man.
I imagine him as Daniel Craig in Knives Out.
Daniel Craig is his character is absolutely inspired partially by Hercule Poirot, especially because Poirot is he's got his little weirdsies, he just has his little fastidious things that he needs perfect, he's definitely autism coded.
Yeah.
For sure.
For sure.
She does have other detectives though, Poirot is definitely her most famous, but Tommy and Tuppence is actually my favorite detective duo. They're a couple as well as a detective duo. And then Miss Marple is another one of her detectives who most of these, Tommy and Tuppence, have not had much media, but both Poirot and Miss Marple have had their own TV shows and movies and stuff. So the Poirot novels you'll know are Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile are her two most famous. Yeah. Her first book was The Mysterious Affair at Styles. It was pretty much immediately popular. And then she went on to make 33 total Poirot novels. So those are just her Poirot novels.
Holy shit.
And then she also has Tommy and Tuppence and Miss Marple. My mom is a big mystery fan, so I was reading the fantasy novels and she supported that, but anytime she suggested anything, it was a Poirot novel or something like that. I'm sorry, that name is so hard in my American mouth. I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
So between Sherlock Holmes and Poirot, I've read everything.
I once had a complete works. It wasn't the complete works of Agatha Christie, but it was the complete works of one of the detectives.
Okay.
I don't remember what or which one, but it was a pretty thick book.
Yeah.
And I don't like Agatha Christie. I've never liked her writing. I find it, I just don't enjoy it, really.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. And so I, as a 16-year-old, got an X-Acto knife and cut the middle of the book out and used that to store anything I wanted to hide from my mom.
Nice.
Yeah. It worked really well.
I love that. I love that.
I wonder if she ever knew that.
Probably not. Just a thing to note about Agatha Christie is there's loads of casual racism in her books. It's bad. It's just racist. It is racist in the way that most people of color in the books, the very few that there are just tokens meant to represent, some aspect of their culture, and then they're usually used exclusively as plot devices. And there's language we don't use anymore, and there's language that we knew not to use then. I'm not even saying oh, she was just a product of her time. She was a racist product of her time. She was a racist. One of her best mysteries and one of her most famous books is now called And Then There Were None. There are other titles that I will not be saying. The book itself is based on a rhyme, like a nursery rhyme, and the mystery of the book is based on that rhyme. You can't divorce the novel from its origin rhyme. And the thing is, the rhyme itself, there's no reason for it to be racist. Like, the rhyme works completely when you remove the racism from it. It's just a list of actions and consequences. The skin color of the person performing them does not matter. So the novel was then changed to another word that I will actually say out loud, but I wouldn't use normally, which is 10 Little Indians. So that was the name of the book that I knew when I first read it, like in elementary school. And even then I was like, oh, we don't really use this word anymore. Like, I knew that. And then it's now been renamed, and then there were none, because that's the last line of the book. All of the characters are white. Like, it doesn't need to be called what it is. It just is. So it's just, we're going to be talking about
her disappearance. We're not defending her work.
Right. Who was Agatha Christie? She was born into a wealthy upper middle class family. So they weren't titled. She does eventually become a dame. She was not a titled person. She married her first husband, Archibald Christie, in 1914. And
Archibald Christie is such a good name.
Right.
Archibald Christie.
Yeah. Bad man, but good name.
Great name.
She started writing after an illness put her in bed, and she wrote 6 novels before anything was ever accepted. And her first accepted and published work was The Mysterious Affair at Styles, which was published in 1920, and it was an immediate success. It was her first Hercule Poirot book, and she went on to write 33 total. She did eventually tire of Poirot, which is pretty common for mystery authors. Like, how many times was Sherlock Holmes killed by Arthur Conan Doyle because he just wanted to not write Sherlock Holmes novels anymore? And at the end of her career, Agatha Christie said that she found Poirot to be insufferable, and by the 1960s felt that he was an egocentric creep.
But she made him.
Yeah. And
I've made characters I hate.
Right.
Fair.
I think that it's almost like a compliment to her work to write a character that is so himself. Like, he is so fully fleshed out that she knows how he would react.
And she doesn't like him.
Right.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So
authors are so fucking weird. I love them.
Weird. So she was always considered a very quiet, introverted, conservative person. She just wrote her novels and released them and hoped for the best. She never was doing, press. She was never out for anything like that. She was just interested in living her life, being a wealthy lady, and writing novels.
I'm also interested in that. If that was an option for me,
ideal life, honestly.
I would love to be a wealthy lady writing novels. Right now, I'm a not wealthy lady, not editing my novel. So
she was a famous author at this time, but not famous in a press way. Like, everyone knew Agatha Christie, knew her novels, but didn't have opinions on her personality. And then in 1926, her mom died in April of 1926, which sent her into a depression. She and her husband had been traveling. He was like an ambassador or something, one of those bullshit jobs that rich English guys get. They came back, her mom died, and Agatha became very depressed. Then in August of 1926, her husband informed her that he had fallen in love with his secretary and asked her for a divorce.
That's so tacky.
Yeah. His secretary was 25. I saw her referred to as his secretary and his friend's secretary. I'm not sure which is correct. So just putting it out there.
Just to be clear, this woman is grieving. Her mom died. She's real sad. And then her husband's like, by the way, you're too sad. I cheated on you. Let's get divorced.
Yeah. And it's 1926.
So she's just fucked.
Yeah.
Is divorce even an option back then?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
The Church of England pretty famously allows for divorces. And at this time, she has to grant the divorce. Like, you can't just like decide, I'm divorced, I'm going to go get divorced, and she has to grant it for him. So he asks her to grant a divorce, and she says no. They're still living together. And at the beginning of December that same year, 1926, her husband tells her that he will be spending the weekend at their friend's country home with his affair partner, and his wife is not invited. These are their couple friends that they have been traveling with for a while now, and she is not invited to this weekend getaway because he is going with his new partner.
Polyamorous icons, am I right?
He leaves December 4th. So it's Agatha, the maid, and the daughter are left in the home without them. At some point on December 4th, she disappears. She doesn't tell anyone where she's going. She just leaves the house. Now, we now know, like from recent revelations, that at some point she was in London and visited Harrods department store, where she, quote, marveled at the spectacle of the store's Christmas display. England confuses me, though, because they'll act like it was like a grand journey and then it'll end up being like a 45-minute drive. But London was a ways away from where they were. Then her car was found parked at a this is hard. Her car was found parked at a chalk quarry. Chalk quarry. Her car was found at a chalk quarry with an expired license and some clothes inside, but no more information. So obviously, it was immediately suspected that there was a suicide, but no body was found in the quarry. So this becomes a giant media storm because now there's a mystery around one of the most famous mystery novelists of all time.
That's
and
cool.
It was salacious because at the time that she disappeared, her husband was with his affair partner.
Yeah.
Agatha was like the blank slate, right? Because she was very famous, but had no qualities assigned to her because she was extremely press shy. So the reporters kind of could assign any personality to her that they wanted to. And I mean, like, I guess that was right. Who knows? So she's missing for 11 days.
That's so long.
Yeah. Her husband last sees her on December 3rd, and she is found on December 14th.
God, he was probably thrilled during those 11 days.
Uh-huh. She had been staying at the Swan Hydropathic Hotel in Yorkshire, which was 184 miles away from their home. It's about a 4-hour drive. She was registered under the name Mrs. Tressa Neal. Neal was her husband's affair partner's last name.
Crazy bitch.
Yeah. So her husband actually came to collect her from the hotel. And she went to go stay at her sister's residence, Abney Hall, until the story fizzled out, basically. The public reaction was negative, like pretty much immediately, because for the 11 days that she was missing, the journalists ran with it. There were articles showing what she might look like in a disguise, like what might have happened to her, where she could have gone, how far she could have gotten in the 11 days, right? Like there was so much speculation. And then the leaving the car at the quarry with like personal effects in it does kind of make it seem like you are maybe faking your suicide or framing your husband for murder. And she was a famous mystery novelist, so people are obviously like, she probably did something that would happen in her books, which like isn't fair because why would she?
I feel like if she was framing him for murder, she would have done it better.
Right.
Like, I think she could have succeeded.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she had shown...
Especially back then.
Right.
They didn't have DNA.
Like, no. And then some people thought it was a publicity stunt, which again, doesn't really make sense because she'd never done publicity before, let alone a publicity stunt. And she didn't have any trouble selling novels. Like at this time, if you were the one person selling novels, you got to continue to be the one person selling novels. Like you weren't competing for TikTok views. She eventually went to the Canary Islands to convalesce for 3 months with her daughter, just the two of them.
Again, I wish I could live this life.
Right?
Just casually, you know what? I was depressed. I'm going to go to the Canary Islands for 3 months.
Did you know that German healthcare covers burnout?
Need that.
Yeah, we all need that.
I like need.
Yeah.
I need.
Our country needs that. But
like, I want to cry at the idea of that.
Yeah. The first time I learned about it, I did cry. So anyways, she convalesced in the Canary Islands for 3 months with her daughter. And when she came back, she filed for divorce. She filed in 1927. They were divorced by 1928. Her husband married his affair partner 1 week after the divorce was finalized. Yeah.
I mean...
He's just the worst.
I mean... He'd been with her for over a year at that point.
I mean, and who knows how much longer than that? Because they had been traveling. Agatha, her husband, their friends had been traveling for over a year with this secretary.
Oh, so she like knew her.
Yeah. Then in 1930, on an archaeological dig in Iraq, which was something she was very into.
Wait, a British person was really into archaeological digs in a different country?
So the rest of the story that I'm about to tell you is so fucking romantic and cool and swashbucklery, unless you remember that they're just colonists. Like, you have to remember that British archaeologists in the 1920s are they're just colonizing. They're just doing colonization.
Yeah. And theft.
And theft. Yeah, lots of theft. She met her second husband in 1930 on an archaeological dig. He was 13 years younger than her.
Damn. Okay, cougar.
And they got married that year and stayed married for 46 years.
Wow.
And she spent much of the rest of her life traveling with him on his archaeological digs. And that's why her knowledge of archaeology and that part of the world is so vast, and why so many of her novels are set in that world is because she was actually living there, which is so cool. Like the kid in me that was like obsessed with Egyptology and like didn't have these concepts yet is like, I want to see this movie. Like, I think it's so cool and romantic. And then like the part of me that like understands context is like, no, bad. She just continues to write mystery novels and have TV shows and movies made out of them. There are dozens of properties based on her work at this point. Miss Marple, the TV show, ran for years. I mean, she fundamentally shaped mystery writing as a genre. She has her concepts have appeared in all forms of media in so many different ways. She never discussed what happened in those 11 days.
Never?
Not once. She had 2 different doctors diagnose her with profound memory loss of those days. Her biographer genuinely believed she was in a fugue state for those 11 days. A fugue state is scientifically like iffy. One of those things that like, you know, there's reports of it happening, but like we can't really figure out what it is or why it would happen or how we would even prove that it did happen. But it's essentially that she was out working for some amount of time and has zero memory of what happened and is like completely in the dark, in the dark as everyone else about what happened during these 11 days. So she seems to have at least attested to not remember anything that happened. She just would refuse to talk about
a lot of other people that she was telling the truth.
Yeah. So about this event in her autobiography, she said, "So after illness came sorrow, despair, and heartbreak. There is no need to dwell on it." And that's the only that is the only reference to that 11 days and like what happened after, like basically up until the divorce. Yeah. Some think it was a fugue state. I don't think it was a fugue state. Some people think she wanted to embarrass her husband and it just got out of control. Some think it was just a nervous breakdown. She really didn't have any intention behind what she was doing. And some still think it was a publicity stunt. I don't think it was a publicity stunt because she was famously like did not care and like did not like attention and publicity. And like I said, she didn't need it. And the reaction to this was mainly negative. And like, I'm not going to claim she was like a PR whiz because she didn't do it, but I don't think she was a dumbass. And I don't know how she thought this would be good publicity, you know?
Right.
I think she was pissed for good reason.
Yeah.
And also didn't know why she did. Like, I don't think she knows why or knew why she drove her car to that quarry and left it there. I don't know. I think she was just pissed.
Yeah.
And wanted to not exist in the paradigm she was existing in.
Honestly, it gives to me, I want to show my husband he still cares about me.
Yeah.
And if I disappear and he's worried about me, he'll realize he still cares about me.
Yeah.
On the Old Swan Hotel Wikipedia page, this is just a fun fact that I'm going to share. It says her disappearance drew other crime writers to like the case, including Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
I think I know where you're going with this. It's great.
He brought one of her gloves to a psychic.
Mm-hmm.
And the psychic was like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Arthur Conan Doyle was like really obsessed with mysticism. This is like a completely different topic. He was obsessed with like the Victorian mysticism movement and went to seances and was determined to prove with like that these mystic things that were happening were real and provable and repeatable. And he was in like a long-term feud with Houdini, because Houdini was a magician and he was like, I know how they're faking all of this. Like, I can show you how they're faking it. And Houdini had a similar campaign of disproving mystics. And they had like a frenemy ship with Arthur Conan Doyle trying to convince Houdini and vice versa. And when Houdini died, he had like his wife held a seance and was like, if like Houdini told me that if this is real, he will come to me. And obviously he didn't, because seances aren't real. And it was like a blow to Arthur Conan Doyle. Yeah, it's really fascinating. That's
so
like it's a whole topic in and of itself. So yeah, we still don't know. Like I honestly thought, because there's new thought today that's basically like, this was a misogynistic teardown of a woman who was obviously going through crisis of some way. And the media saw that they could make money by selling newspapers, because at this time there were still 2 newspapers a day. So it was the same as Chapel Roan being mean to a child at a concert. Like, we can get clicks if we just continue this story with no evidence and no reason, and like maybe this woman is just in crisis and needs you to leave her the fuck alone.
She disappeared because she needs to be alone.
Right. Like, she literally just took herself to a spa and didn't bother to tell anyone.
Her poor daughter.
I know. So yeah, that's Agatha Christie and her disappearance.
Wow. Well, thank you for enlightening us.
Of course.
Today, I am talking about journalism. My topic is titled, I paid $26,000 for a journalism degree, and here's the most important thing I learned.
Woof.
A free press is one of the pillars of democracy. Freedom of press is in the First Amendment. It is our First Amendment right. We may not have it, but we technically do have that right. Whatever you do with that.
There's a lot of like rights we technically have.
Okay, so let's talk about journalism, but more importantly, why it matters. So journalism, obviously, I have the Merriam-Webster definition here. It's the collection and editing of news for presentation through the media, the public press, and an academic study concerned with the collection and editing of news. Journalism is news. Shocking, I know. News journalism is extremely powerful. So I wanted to talk about some examples of how journalism betters our world, basically, and how important it is to support. So the first thing I want to do is talk about a few investigative journalists and what they uncovered and what that resulted in. So first, I'm going to do Pulitzer winners. These are like the big stories. Then I'm going to do examples across the US. So those will be big stories, but not quite as big. And then I'm going to do even more local. I'm going to do my hometown and my current city. And I'm going to try to like go through these pretty quick. If you want to look into any of them, they're all super fascinating. So we'll start with Pulitzer winners. In 2022, the Tampa Bay Times did an expose of highly toxic hazards that were inside Florida's only battery recycling plant. Because of the journalism, not the health department, not the police, they forced new safety measures that protected workers and residents in the area to be enforced.
That is cool.
In 2017, the Charleston Gazette-Mail exposed the opioids that were flowing into West Virginia, including the counties with the highest overdose death rates in the entire country. And this brought more awareness and also more support to the community for like opioid rehab and stuff like that, like got brought specifically to West Virginia and helped all of these people because of a journalist. In 2016, the Sarasota Herald Tribune revealed escalating violence and neglect in Florida mental hospitals. And because of this, a whole uprising was brought to like the state officials to do like an overarching remodel of how they handle mental health hospitals. Huh. And then the last Pulitzer winner that I want to touch on, this one's from 1969.
Nice.
And right? But I just want to show like journalism isn't just important now. Like it's always been important. I mean, Upton Sinclair was a journalist, and The Jungle.
Like, I mean, when you said that a journalist led to oversight of mental health facilities, that's like the reason we know the term Bedlam is because a female journalist got herself put into Bedlam to
Nellie Bly.
Yeah.
I love Nellie Bly.
Yeah.
So 1969, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch broke the story of the 1968 U.S. Army massacre of civilians in a town in South Vietnam. And they also discovered that the Army tried to hush the actions of the infantry and not get it out. So in this situation, not only was the journalist the one to like break the news and make it public, but they were also literally fighting the U.S. government to make this happen.
Yeah.
This happens a lot. Examples across the U.S. Searchlight, New Mexico, discovered that the site of the first atomic bomb that had ever been set off, like for testing and everything, there was a town, a very, very small town of 370 that was not too far away. They were 225 miles away from the site of the first ever bomb. There's only 370 people. This journalist found out that they had massive amounts of plutonium in all of them.
Yeah.
And that the first woman who died from the plutonium was confiscated by the U.S. government and illegally autopsied.
Holy shit.
Yeah. No one knew because, again, it was a town
Right.
of 370 completely separated from the rest of the world. No one knew that the U.S. government was doing this to them.
Yeah.
And then this one journalist reported on it.
Jeez.
Raw Story helped to get a forgotten man off of death row in Texas. He was being held for 30 plus years. The lawyer who finally was allowed to visit him said that he was being kept in conditions that were worse than he had ever seen anything in his life. The toilet had orange mold growing all over it. There was soiled bed pads littering the floor, feces on the wall, furry mold. Like, it was awful, and he was kept in there for over 30 years. One journalist helped get him off death row.
It's wild.
So again, the people who are supposed to protect us
Right. Oh, yeah, no.
aren't. The journalists are.
Yeah.
This was a freelance journalist, but they worked with Vulture to uncover sexual harassment and abuse that was occurring at Juilliard and the New York Philharmonic. This resulted in new rules at both places and more checks and balances and more like making sure that these things were not going to continue happening. And then my last example for the US, the Flatwater Free Press did a multi-year investigation focused on nitrate in the Nebraska drinking water, including finding that the state did not release the details of their water quality report and lied to the people about the water quality in the water that they were drinking.
Yeah.
So again, one journalist caught the US government lying. Again. And now I want to go local because I just want to show, like, no matter how small your city is, journalism matters.
Yeah.
So in 2015, the Albany Student Press, me, broke the story that a frat pledge had died on campus due to hazing.
Jeez.
After me and Cassie broke that story, other local newspapers picked it up and reported on it more, but we were the first to release the actual information. And because of that, UAlbany, my college, did do more hazing prevention and more rules, and I believe that frat was disbanded entirely.
I fucking hope so.
I got a frat disbanded. I got a frat disbanded. I'm from Albany, so not too long ago, there were 83 people accused in the Roman Catholic Diocese of Albany of sexual assault. The Diocese of Albany agreed to pay $148 million to settle claims from over 440 people who were sexually abused by priests, employees, and volunteers. Again, this would not have been found out if a journalist hadn't reported on it and done the investigative work. Okay, we have two more examples. These are both from Chattanooga, which is where I live now. So Latricia Thomas of News Channel 9 did coverage of a near-fatal Chattanooga Motor Car Festival accident in 2019.
Okay.
In doing her coverage, she realized that she didn't think that the safety protocols had been followed correctly and that that's why it happened. She exposed lapses that were done in the course setup and like corners that were cut and all of that. And because of that, changes were made in the permitting process and there were new laws or rules or whatever that were introduced to that festival to make sure that it's more safe. So again, that festival is more safe because of one journalist. And then our last example, I couldn't figure out who first reported this. It was either WSMV4 or the Chattanooga Times Free Press. But there were 419 sober people who got DUIs in Chattanooga because the cops had to meet DUI quotas. These journalists found like emails that were sent saying, I don't care what you have to do, just get the quota. It doesn't matter if they're actually drunk. We have to have this many DUIs. Because of that, not only are those people able to be like, no, I actually was sober now, and there's like not reasonable doubt, they were also able to reach out to other cities in Tennessee and discover that Nashville was doing the exact same thing. Over 2,500 arrests have taken place for sober people in Tennessee, I think last year.
Yeah. It was just announced in March, so not that long ago. I found an article saying that there are 3 men who are suing this was the Tennessee highway system, but they were suing Tennessee for unlawfully, for faking their DUI.
Sober people DUIs.
Yeah, and there are 25,000 or 2,500 people that could make that exact same claim.
Yeah.
So it could be. I think these 3 are the beginning of hopefully a reckoning.
Yeah, I think it could be a really big deal.
Yeah.
But again, it came out because of a journalist.
Yeah.
That was 12 examples, and almost every example was a journalist saying, hey, the people who are supposed to protect us aren't protecting us. Let's look into that. Just worth pointing out.
I wonder why they're trying to get rid of journalists.
I told Maggie today, I was like, I feel like ACAB is true because, obviously ACAB is true for a lot of reasons, but if you actually want to help people, you don't become a cop, you become an investigative journalist because you don't need the power, you just want to help people. And I do believe that. I want to talk about how journalism works. We're going to talk about freedom. So we're going to review the World Press Freedom Index, which I'm so excited for. I love talking about the World Press Freedom Index. We're going to discuss legal protections for journalists, and we're going to discuss credibility and bias of different media organizations so that you can determine how credible your news is. The World Press Freedom Index started in 2002. It's like hosted or owned by Reporters Without Borders, which is a French organization. They rank 180 countries and regions based on pluralism, legislative framework, and safety of the journalists. Just in case anyone doesn't know, pluralism means how many media outlets and how many diverse perspectives are being offered in the media. The legislative framework defines what's okay, what crosses the line, what ensures that journalists can report freely, but also still be held accountable. And then the safety of the journalists is not just about physical safety. This also includes things like the ability to not be jailed and censorship laws and shield laws and things like that. The World Press Freedom Index does not rank public policies or even journalism quality. Public policies are what governments choose to do and not to do: education, healthcare, employment, finance, economics, transportation. None of that is included in the World Press Freedom Index. It doesn't really matter. There are 5 rankings that a country can get in the World Press Freedom Index, and they are good, satisfactory, problematic, difficult, or very serious. The 2026 World Press Freedom Index just came out recently. That is why I'm doing this report. The findings are very interesting. The average score of all of these regions is at a all-time low.
How long has it existed?
25 years.
Yeah.
Maybe good news, depending on, I think it's good news. Syria, since Assad has been overthrown, is seeing improvements. Last year, they jumped up 36 places.
That's crazy.
Just from the
It's doable.
It's totally doable. The US, if you're wondering, they have fallen down 7 places. We are now about a third of the way down.
Okay. Yeah.
So the US is number 64. We fell 7 spots this year. Reporters Without Borders notes that the decline the US has seen over the last few years, including this year where we just lost 7 spots, it is a decline comparable to that seen in the world's most dangerous regions for journalists.
So we're not there yet, but we're approaching.
Our actions are putting us where the worst countries are.
Right.
And that our journalists are about to lose even more freedom because it's dangerous for them now.
Right.
I wanted to talk about shield laws a little bit because shield laws are something that we learned about in journalism school. It's a protection law, but I didn't learn in journalism school that they're really only in the US.
Huh.
So shield laws are legal protections that prevent individuals from being forced to disclose confidential information or sources. This is actually also an example of the curb cut effect because shield laws also protect healthcare officials.
Can I explain what the curb cut effect is?
Yeah.
Okay. So real quick, the curb cut effect is really interesting, and it's why disability access is really important, not just for disabled people, but for everyone. And not only because you can become disabled at literally any point in your life, but Curb cuts are where the curb slopes down so that you can get up it using a wheelchair. That's why they were invented. However, they are also useful for anyone pulling a wagon, anyone pushing kids on a stroller, anyone that has literally any mobility issue, even if it's like you're limping for a day.
An old person who can't lift their leg that high, if you're riding a bike, if your kid's on a scooter, all of that is useful for a curb cut.
Yeah.
So the curb cut effect is basically saying like something that can help one person actually universally can help a lot of people. Usually, what a shield law does, the protections a shield law offers, would be either federal or non-existent.
Okay.
In the US, we have shield laws because they're done state by state.
Oh,
We do not have federal protections like other countries do because we let states dictate.
Yeah.
So, for example, Norway, which is number 1 on the World Press Freedom Index, provides strong national protection. In the US, that varies state by state. There's no federal laws, and that's why we need shield laws, which are granted at a state by state basis. One example of this happened when I was first starting journalism school, so it's like vivid in my mind. Jana Winter, who was a Fox News reporter, reported on the Aurora, Colorado movie shooting. She got her hands on a copy of the shooter's diary or journal or like something that he had written and reported on it. Law enforcement wanted her to release her source, and she refused. She worked for Fox News in New York. New York has shield laws. Colorado does not. So she had an ongoing case for years about whether or not the New York shield law protected her as a reporter when she was in Colorado, even though she was reporting for a New York company.
Yeah, I feel like for any non-Americans listening, if you ever think to yourself, wow, that's stupid, why does America do it that way? It's because we're not a country, we're a federation of states. And it made a lot more sense where there were 13.
Essentially, New York courts deemed that she could not be forced to reveal her sources, even in Colorado. Colorado disagreed, so she just can't go back to Colorado. So now I just want to touch real quick on when you're finding your news, how can you make sure it is credible, unbiased, whatnot? I recommend mediabiasfactcheck.com. It was founded in 2015 by, his name is Dave M. Van Zant. He is essentially just some guy. Like, he has a communications degree. It's, from what I can tell, he works in healthcare. His LinkedIn has no profile picture. He's not getting anything out of this. This guy, he's not a billionaire trying to, like, this is just some guy who is like, here's media credibility. And so I trust him.
Yeah.
And also because what I found on here is trustworthy. Yeah. So when you look up something on mediabiasfactcheck.com, it will show you a scale from left to right of how biased they are politically. And then it will show you a list of how factual and credible their reporting is based on like very high, high, moderate, low, very low. Credibility is based on failed fact checks, sourcing, transparency, and also one-sidedness and omission. And then the bias is based on economic policy, social values, straight news balance, and editorial bias. So they cover pretty much everything, and I find that to be a really good way to determine. Now that we've talked about journalism and how important it is and how cool it is, in my opinion, let's talk about what you can do to support journalism. So the first and most important thing, of course, is to subscribe. If you have a local newspaper that you can support, that is amazing. Basically, the smaller you can support, the better. I will say there are about 6 media companies that own 90% of the news in the United States.
It's actually horrifying.
Yeah. So if you can avoid Gannett, Alden, Lee Enterprises, Adams Publishing, Hearst, and Noah. And then also if you can avoid anything that's owned by a billionaire. So the Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos. The Murdochs own everything. The Ellisons. Like, if you can avoid it, one of those 6 companies and also not a billionaire, give them your money. Another thing you can do, if you can't afford to subscribe, obviously not everyone can, and that's completely fine. But what you can do is follow your favorite journalism sources and then repost and share their work and get their word out and help them with that. And then the last thing I want to touch on is something I don't think a lot of people realize they can do. Follow your local journalists themselves, not just the newspapers, and reach out to them. If you see something that's weird and you think there might be a story there, tell them. They will be so appreciative, and a lot of times they will look into it. Journalists are great. They want to help you, they want to hear from you, and they want to get your opinion. They just want to help their community, and they want to learn more about what's going on, and that helps you too. So please support local journalism and local journalists, and not billionaires.
Have you seen anything Kyle Clark in Denver has been doing recently? He's a reporter for local news Channel 9 in Denver, which unfortunately was just sold to Sinclair. So he does not expect to keep his job for very much longer. But if you are not keeping up with the Colorado gubernatorial race right now, it's fucking terrifying. The Republicans running in Colorado are really, really scary. And I say we because we used to live in Colorado. Colorado does currently have a Dem for governor, but Jared Polis is a rat bastard.
He's a Dem in the way that a police officer is a Dem.
Yeah. So he's gay. So we, as gay people, were stoked that one of ours was going to be a governor. We were at the Pink Ball.
We volunteered for him.
Yeah.
We worked at some of his events.
Yeah. We were, because my mom works with One Colorado, which is the largest lobbying organization for queer folks in Colorado. And so we were part of that. And one of the first things he did was not pass a legislative bill to stop making certain dogs illegal in Colorado.
It was a pit bull ban.
Yeah.
It was no, pit bulls should still be banned. Sir.
And it's very harmful because one time my cousin had a utility worker come into her backyard, which she was allowed to do because there was a utility box in the backyard. So they're allowed to do that without any notice. And her dog, who was a pit bull, lunged at him and he stabbed her dog with a screwdriver in the face. And when Kate called the police because a strange man came into her backyard and stabbed her dog, the police told her that she had 2 weeks to vacate the property or they would put the dog down. So anyways, Kyle Clark has been moderating the debates and doing interviews with the gubernatorial candidates, and he is a bulldog. He, both on the Dems and the Republicans, there was recently a debate with both. He did not let anyone get away with anything. I have not seen a debate moderated like that. I don't think ever, honestly. It was so impressive.
Replace Andy Cohen with him. Honestly, I think this is a totally different topic. I think Andy Cohen should be replaced with Z-Way.
Yes. Holy shit, yes.
Right.
So Kyle Clark is pretty sure that he's going to get fired because he now works for Sinclair, and Sinclair is the evil empire. I personally think we're going to see him have a larger national footprint in the next couple of years. But Colorado is losing, if that is what happens, a huge voice of advocacy for the people. And anyways, just follow Kyle Clark. He's doing really cool stuff. And that Colorado gubernatorial race is important for all of us.
Yeah, just like the curb cut effect, how it affects all of us. State politics affect all of us, unfortunately. Okay, bye.
Thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to support us, giving us just a follow, subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. Just go ahead and click that subscription. It helps us a lot, especially on Apple Podcasts. It's the most important one. And if you have a couple of shekels to throw our way, we are on Patreon.
We are. We're also on pretty much all socials. So if you want to give us a follow, we're on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of that. And we are posting every 2 weeks, in addition to one exclusive episode on Patreon every month.
Okay. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.